I never thought I would share this story on YouTube. I am Melinda Ross, 30, a tech engineer living and working in Rochester, Minnesota. I once believed that family was the safest place, a space built on absolute trust, until one fateful Saturday morning shattered everything I thought I knew. My phone buzzed with a bank notification, a $115,000 charge on my credit card. $115,000 for a Tesla, but not mine. My parents, without saying a single word to me, had used my credit card to buy my 24-year-old brother his dream car, a shiny, fully loaded Model S. A few weeks earlier, they had asked to borrow money, and I had refused. I thought that was the end of it. But no, they went behind my back and did something I had never given them permission to do. What hurt the most wasn't just the stolen money, but how they reacted when I called. No apology, no regret, just indifference. As if the money I had worked so hard to earn was theirs to spend. For years, I have helped them pay the mortgage-covered household bills, while that younger brother of mine lived comfortably with expensive gadgets and luxury trips. But this was no longer about money, it was betrayal. It was a profound lack of respect. I stared at that bank notification, my heart racing, and realized this was my breaking point. I was not going to let this pass as if nothing had happened. Something had to change, and it would start with me. The decision I made afterward turned our family upside down, and I have no regrets. Take a moment before hearing the rest. Tell me where in the world you are and what time it is when you're watching this story. I truly want to know how far it has reached. Everything started back when I lived with my family. Growing up in Rochester, Minnesota, I learned early that hard work was my ticket to independence. By my late teens, I was juggling part-time jobs to save for college, while my parents, especially Dad, seemed to think my efforts were for the family's benefit. I didn't mind helping out, after all, family sticks together. So when I landed a solid tech job in my mid-20s, I started covering part of their mortgage on our modest suburban house. It wasn't cheap, but I saw it as my duty, a way to keep us stable. Meanwhile, Sean, my younger brother, got a different deal. Fresh out of college, he never had to lift a finger. Mom and Dad bought him a sleek sedan when he turned 18, then a fancy new phone just because he asked. Work. That was optional for him. They'd say Sean's still finding his path while I was expected to have it all figured out. I'll never forget one sting from my teenage years. I'd spent months saving every penny from my coffee shop job for a decent camera, dreaming of starting a photography hobby. I was so close, $300 in a jar under my bed. Then, one day, it was gone. Mom admitted they'd used it to buy Sean a gaming console because he needed something to cheer him up. I was crushed, but they brushed it off, saying I'd get over it. I didn't. That moment stuck with me, a quiet wound that never fully healed. Sean got the shiny toys. I got lectures about responsibility. It wasn't just the big stuff. Over the years, Mom and Dad's favoritism showed in small ways too. They'd pay for Sean's car repairs, his gym membership, even his weekend trips with friends, while I was told to budget better if I wanted anything. I'd built my life on self-reliance, working overtime to afford my own place, my own car, my own everything. Yet they leaned on me to keep their house afloat, never once asking if I was okay with it. I thought that's just how family worked until a few weeks ago. Dad called me one evening, his voice casual, but with that familiar edge. He asked to borrow $20,000. For what? A gift for Sean. I couldn't believe it. After years of footing their bills, they wanted more for him. My gut churned as I said no firmly for the first time. Dad didn't argue, just hung up with a curt fine. I thought that was the end of it, but I was wrong. That no didn't stop them. It just made them sneakier. Looking back, I see the pattern now. They'd always taken my help for granted, assuming my money was theirs to use. But this time, they'd crossed a line I didn't even know existed. The unfairness hit me hard. I'd spent my life being the responsible one, the one who never asked for anything, while Sean coasted on their generosity. Why was my hard work their safety net? But his comfort. their priority. It wasn't just about money anymore, it was about respect, or the complete lack of it. That realization stirred something in me. For years, I'd trusted mom and dad to value my efforts to see me as more than a paycheck. But that phone call, that $20,000 request, cracked open a truth I'd ignored. They didn't. I started questioning every time they'd asked for help, every time they'd dismissed my sacrifices. Something was off, and I was done ignoring it. One Saturday morning, my phone buzzed with a bank alert. I was halfway through my coffee expecting a calm weekend in Rochester when the screen flashed a number that made my stomach drop, a $115,000 charge on my credit card. My hands froze as I read the details: a Tesla Model S purchased the day before. I hadn't stepped foot in a dealership. I hadn't even looked at cars online. My mind raced, connecting the dots. My parents had done this. Without a word, without my permission, they'd used my card to buy Sean his dream car, a fully loaded, gleaming Tesla. The same Sean who'd been handed cars, phones, and trips while I worked overtime to keep our family afloat. My heart pounded, a sickening mix of shock and rage surging through me. How could they think this was okay? After I'd told them no to helping Sean just weeks ago, they went behind my back. This wasn't just a purchase, it was a betrayal. I dialed Dad's number, my fingers trembling so hard I nearly dropped the phone. When he answered, his voice was infuriatingly calm, like he'd been expecting my call. "Melinda, relax," he said, as if I'd caught him borrowing a pen. "Family helps each other. Sean needed a car to start his career. Needed a $115,000 Tesla." My voice shook as I shot back, "You didn't ask me. That's my money." His response was a smug chuckle that made my blood boil. "You're doing fine," he said. "Sean deserves this. You want him stuck without a car?" I couldn't believe it. He wasn't sorry, he was justifying it. I pressed harder, demanding to know why they didn't even talk to me first. "We didn't think you'd mind," he said, his tone dripping with dismissal. I hung up my ears, ringing with anger. He hadn't just taken my money. He'd treated my trust like it didn't matter. Still reeling, I logged into my bank account to figure out how they'd pulled this off. That's when I saw it. They'd used an old card number from a joint account we'd had years ago, back when I was young, and thought sharing accounts with family was safe. I'd closed my part of it after moving out, but they must have kept the details, maybe even planned to use them if I said no again. The realization hit like a slap. They knew exactly what they were doing. They'd waited until they thought I wouldn't notice, then spent a fortune on Sean without a second thought. My anger flared hotter, but beneath it, a wave of doubt crept in. I'd been helping with their mortgage for years, thinking it kept our family close. Was I wrong to keep doing it? Should I keep pouring my money into people who treated me like this? That question haunted me as I sat there staring at my laptop screen. I replayed every moment I'd sent money for their bills, every time I'd skipped my own plans to cover their expenses. I'd always thought family meant sacrifice, that helping them was my role as the responsible one. But now, Dad's words echoed in my head. Sean deserves this. What about me? Didn't I deserve respect? Didn't I deserve to be asked before they spent my life savings? The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about a car or a credit card. They'd taken my money, my trust, and my sense of worth in this family. Dad's casual dismissal, his refusal to even acknowledge my feelings, cut deeper than any dollar amount. I wasn't just their daughter, I was their ATM. That truth burned raw and sharp, and it changed how I saw everything. A few days later, I decided to dig deeper. First, I called my bank, hoping to reverse the $115,000 charge for Sean's Tesla. The representative's voice was polite but firm. "I'm sorry, Ms. Ross," she said. "The card was used by authorized users, your parents. We can't cancel the transaction without their consent." Authorized users. My stomach twisted. Years ago, when I was still living at home, I'd added mom and dad to a joint account for emergencies. I thought I'd closed it when I moved out, but apparently they still had access. The bank could only offer to remove them now, which felt like locking the door after the house was robbed. I thanked her and hung up, my frustration mounting. They'd exploited a trust I'd long forgotten about. I needed to clear my head, so I texted Lindsay, my best friend since college. We met at a quiet cafe in downtown Rochester, the kind of place where we'd always shared our highs and lows. I poured out everything the Tesla dad smug Sean deserves, this the bank's dead end. Lindsay listened, her eyes wide with disbelief. They did what? She said, leaning forward. Melinda, that's not okay. They're treating you like a bank, not a daughter. Her words hit hard, validating the anger I'd been wrestling with. She grabbed my hand. You've got to protect yourself. Stop letting them walk all over you. Her empathy steadied me, but it was her next words that lit a spark. You're not powerless here, she said. You can take control, starting with your money. Lindsay's encouragement wasn't just comfort, it was a call to action. Back home, I pulled up my financial records, determined to uncover the full scope of what Mom and Dad had done. What I found made my jaw drop. Beyond the Tesla, there were other transactions I hadn't noticed, small but consistent withdrawals from my savings account over the years. A $2,000 transfer here, $1 $500 there, all linked to their names. I cross-checked the dates and realized they'd been using my money to cover their personal debts, credit card bills, a loan payment for their car. They'd never told me, never asked. Each discovery felt like a fresh wound. I'd been working overtime, skipping vacations to keep their house afloat, and they'd been siphoning off my savings without a word. The betrayal wasn't just about the Tesla anymore, it was a pattern years in the making. That night, I sat down with a notebook and started planning. If Mom and Dad thought they could keep using me, they were wrong. For years, I'd been covering half their mortgage, paying their electricity bills, even chipping in for property taxes on their Rochester home. No more. I listed every payment I'd been making: $100 $200 a month for the mortgage, $150 for electricity, $300 for taxes. I'd call the bank and utility company to stop those automatic transfers. They'd have to figure it out themselves. I wasn't sure what would happen. Maybe they'd miss payments, maybe they'd lose something, but I couldn't keep being their safety net. Lindsay's words echoed, protect yourself. This was my first step. As I wrote out the plan, a weight lifted, replaced by a fierce resolve. I'd spent years believing family came first, that my sacrifices were what held us together. But Mom and Dad had shown me their version of family, where my hard work was theirs to take, where Sean's wants trumped my needs. Enough was enough. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was done. Done with their entitlement. Done with their disregard. For the first time, I saw the truth. I didn't owe them my financial security. I needed boundaries, not just for my wallet, but for my peace of mind. That realization wasn't just a plan, it was a promise to myself. 1 week later, I invited my family to talk at their house. I'd spent days wrestling with my anger, but I needed to face Mom, Dad, and Sean in person. I drove to their Rochester home, my heart heavy but resolute. Sitting around their dining table, I took a deep breath and laid it all out. You used my credit card without asking, I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. $115,000 for Sean's car. That's not okay. I explained how it felt being treated like my money didn't matter, like my years of helping them meant nothing. I wanted them to understand the weight of their actions, to see how deeply they'd hurt me. Mom's face tightened and she cut me off. Melinda, you're being selfish, she snapped. We're a family. We do what's best for everyone, not just you. Dad nodded, his arms crossed. You've got a good job, he said. You can handle this. Sean's just starting out, he needs support. Their words stung, twisting the knife of betrayal deeper. Then Sean chimed in, leaning back with a smug grin. Come on, sis, the Tesla's awesome. You should see it 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds. He laughed, oblivious, as if my life savings were a joke. I stared at them, stunned by their refusal to take me seriously. They weren't sorry, they were doubling down. That night, I made a decision. I called my bank and the utility company, my fingers steady as I canceled every payment I'd been making for them. The $1 and $200 monthly mortgage transfer stopped, the $150 electricity bill done, the $300 property taxes I'd covered canceled. I didn't tell them. They didn't deserve to know, not after dismissing me like that. I'd spent years keeping their house afloat, but they'd crossed a line and I was done being their ATM. My actions were quiet, deliberate, and final. I wasn't just cutting payments, I was cutting their hold over me. The next day, I called Mom and Dad back, keeping my tone calm. "I'm reconsidering my financial help," I said. "I need to focus on my own future." They brushed it off, assuming I'd cave like always. "You'll come around," Mom said, her voice smug. I didn't argue. I didn't tell them I'd already pulled the plug. Let them think everything was fine for now. I wanted them to feel the consequences, not just hear about them. It was the only way they'd learn. But as I hung up, a wave of sadness hit me. I'd hoped for an apology, a flicker of understanding, but they couldn't see their mistake. They saw me as the problem, not their actions. That sadness lingered heavy and raw. I sat alone in my apartment, wondering if I'd ever been more than a resource to them. I'd given so much money, time, trust, believing it strengthened our family. But their words at that table, their casual dismissal, showed me a truth I couldn't ignore. They didn't value my sacrifices. They didn't even see them. Part of me grieved for the family. I thought we were the one where love meant mutual respect. But another part of me, the stronger part, knew I'd made the right choice. I couldn't change their hearts, but I could change my role in their story. And I would. A few days later, I got a frantic text from Mom. "The power's out. The bank's threatening to take the house." It read, her words dripping with panic. I wasn't surprised. After I'd stopped paying their electricity and mortgage, the consequences were bound to hit. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I checked my email and found a notice from their bank forwarded by Mom in a desperate attempt to guilt me. The message was stark. They'd missed 2 mortgage payments and foreclosure proceedings were starting. My heart twinged, but I pushed it down. They'd brought this on themselves when they used my money without asking. I'd warned them I was reconsidering my help, but they'd dismissed me. Now reality was knocking. Then things escalated. I opened my phone to find a notification from a social media platform, a post from Sean, public for all to see. "My sister's so selfish," he wrote. "She's letting our family fall apart just to prove a point. Bet she's enjoying her fancy life while we struggle." He even shared a photo of his Tesla, captioned, "Guess this is why she's mad." My blood boiled. He'd twisted the story, painting me as the villain for refusing to be their bankroll. I couldn't stay silent. I posted my side, keeping it calm but clear. "My parents used my credit card for a $115,000 car without my permission. I've been supporting them for years, but I'm done being taken advantage of." Within hours, comments poured in. Lindsay wrote, "You're standing up for yourself, Melinda. Proud of you." Old friends chimed in, shocked but supportive, saying things like, "That's unbelievable. You don't owe them anything." The encouragement felt like a lifeline. Later that week, my Aunt Joyce called me. "I saw your post," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "I'm not surprised. Your parents did something similar to me years ago." She explained how Mom and Dad had borrowed thousands from her savings, claiming it was for family emergencies, only to spend it on luxuries for Sean. They'd never paid her back, and she'd cut contact to protect herself. Her words hit hard, validating my anger but also deepening my hurt. It wasn't just me they'd been exploiting, anyone who trusted them. Joyce's story gave me clarity. This wasn't my fault, and I wasn't alone. She ended the call with, "You're doing the right thing. Stay strong." Her support meant more than I could say. But not everyone saw it my way. The family group chat exploded with messages from cousins, uncles, and aunts. Some backed me up, saying Melinda's right, nobody should touch her money like that. Others took Mom and Dad's side, accusing me of abandoning the family. "How could you let their house get taken?" one cousin wrote. "You're tearing us apart." Their words stung, but I held firm. I'd spent years sacrificing for Mom, Dad, and Sean only to be dismissed and used. I wasn't the one dividing the family they were with their entitlement. The split among relatives was painful, but it showed me who valued fairness and who clung to blind loyalty. I wasn't backing down. 3 months later, my family faced bigger consequences. My phone buzzed relentlessly with calls and texts from Mom and Dad, their voicemails piling up with pleas to talk. "Melinda, we need you." Mom's messages begged, her voice cracking. Dad sent emails, each one more desperate, asking why I'd abandoned them. One day, I came home to find a note slipped under my apartment door in Rochester. Dad's handwriting saying they'd stopped by, but I wasn't there. I didn't respond. I'd set up call blocking and marked their emails as spam. When they showed up at my place again, my neighbor told them I was unreachable. I'd made it clear their attempts to guilt me back into their lives wouldn't work. They'd crossed a line when they used my money, and I wasn't opening that door again. Word got around that their house was gone. A cousin texted me, hesitant but blunt. The bank had foreclosed on Mom and Dad's Rochester home after months of missed payments. They'd packed up what little they could salvage and moved into a cramped rental apartment in a cheaper part of town, far from the suburban neighborhood they'd clung to. I felt a pang of guilt imagining them sorting through decades of belongings, but it faded fast. For years, I'd covered their mortgage, thinking it kept our family stable. They'd taken that for granted, spending my money on Sean's luxuries instead of their own bills. Now the consequences were theirs to bear, not mine. Sean's life unraveled too. I heard through a mutual friend that he'd sold the Tesla, the same car he'd bragged about online, the one bought with my $115,000. The money went to cover part of the family's mounting debts, but it wasn't enough to save the house. For the first time, Sean had to work taking a part-time job at a local coffee shop. I could have felt sorry for him, but I didn't. He'd called me selfish, twisted the story to make me the villain, all while driving a car he hadn't earned. His new reality, pouring lattes and living without handouts, was a lesson long overdue. I wondered if he'd ever see it that way, but I doubted it. I stayed firm, ignoring every attempt Mom, Dad, and Sean made to reach me. Their texts grew angrier, then quieter, until they stopped altogether. I'd blocked their numbers, but I knew they'd given up when my inbox stayed empty for weeks. It wasn't easy. Each unanswered message carried a flicker of doubt, had I gone too far? But then I remembered their dismissal, their refusal to see my side. I'd given them years of my savings, my trust, my energy, and they'd treated it like their right. Keeping that distance was my shield, my way of protecting what little I had left, my peace, my future, my self-respect. In that silence, I found something new: freedom. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying the weight of their bills or their expectations. I checked my bank account and saw money staying where it belonged, mine. I started saving again, not for their mortgage or Sean's whims, but for me. Maybe a trip, maybe a new camera like the one I'd dreamed of as a teenager. The relief was overwhelming, like stepping out of a storm into sunlight. I wasn't their ATM anymore. I wasn't their fallback plan. I was just Melinda, building a life on my own terms, free from the chains of their entitlement. That freedom wasn't just a feeling, it was my victory. 6 months later, I started a new life. My company called me into a meeting one Monday, and to my surprise, they offered me a promotion to senior project manager. The role came with a raise and a chance to lead a new initiative, a tech startup project within the firm. I'd been pitching ideas for months, and now they were giving me the reins to build something from the ground up. I walked out of that meeting feeling a spark I hadn't felt in years. For so long, I'd poured my energy into my family's needs, but now every ounce of my effort was for me. The project wasn't just a job, it was a chance to prove what I could do when I wasn't carrying someone else's weight. Determined to secure my future, I enrolled in a financial management course at a local college in Rochester. The classes were intense, covering budgeting, investments, and debt protection. I learned how to spot red flags in joint accounts and set up alerts to catch unauthorized charges. One lesson stuck with me: your money is your power, and guarding it is guarding your freedom. I spent evenings poring over spreadsheets rebuilding my savings plan. Each dollar I saved felt like a brick in a wall I was building around my life, one nobody could breach again. The course didn't just teach me numbers, it gave me confidence to never let anyone take advantage of me financially again. With my promotion and newfound knowledge, I decided it was time for a change of scenery. I moved into a sleek new apartment in downtown Rochester, closer to work and buzzing with energy. The place was small but mine, with big windows and a view of the city's skyline. I filled it with things that mattered to me: a new desk for late-night work, a shelf for books I'd always wanted to read. For the first time, I set goals that weren't about fixing someone else's problems. I wanted to grow my startup project, maybe even launch my own company one day. I started running again, something I'd loved as a teenager, but dropped when I was too busy bailing out my family. Every step felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Looking back, I realized how much I'd learned. Protecting my finances wasn't just about bank accounts, it was about protecting my peace. Setting boundaries with my family, saying no to their demands, was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but it saved me. I used to think family meant giving everything, even at my own expense. Now I know better. Prioritizing myself isn't selfish, it's survival. I wish I'd learned that sooner, but I'm stronger for it. My parents and Sean may never understand, but that's not my burden to carry anymore. I've built a life where I come first, and that's enough. To everyone who's followed this story, thank you for listening. I hope it resonates with you, whether you've faced something similar or just want to think about what family really means. Have you ever had to set boundaries with the people you love? How did you find the strength to put yourself first? Share your thoughts below. I'd love to hear them. Your stories matter, and they might help someone else find their way.